Alright, now we're going to work on soldering our ESC to a Dean's connector, because that's what we're going to have on all my batteries is Dean's. So I'm going to show you how to solder this onto here, and then we'll go over the little bullet connectors as well and how to solder into those. I haven't really done those before, but it shouldn't be too hard. Just put some solder in there and heat it up and connect it on there. So let's get started. How I typically do these is, it should say on the inside which is positive and which is minus. If it doesn't, on your Dean's connector, let me zoom in here. Then when you're holding it flat, the horizontal one is typically the negative and the vertical pin is your positive. So I'm going to put the red one on first. I like to put the positive on the outside. Some people put it on the inside, but I like to go on the outside. Just leaves more room for the wires. I don't really care if it sticks out the side a little bit here, so just personal preference. Another thing you're going to need is a little bit of shrink tube. So let's cut a snip off here. You want to make sure to put the shrink tube on the wire before you start the soldering, otherwise you'll never get it on there. I've forgotten it many times. So what we're going to do is just tape down the Dean so it doesn't move on me. What you're going to want is to buy a little bit of flux. And what you do is you just dab it on the connector. And then just some good old solder, normal solder. Nothing special with the solder. And what I like to do is I like to heat up the pin a little bit and then dab the solder on there. I put some on my tip as well, just to pre-tin my tip and wipe it off a little bit. So what you do is you just apply heat. When it's nice and hot, dab some solder on there and let go. As you can see, there's just a nice little bead of solder on that pin now. And also same thing with the wire leads. What we're going to want to do is pre-tin those. So I dip that inside my flux. If you get too much on there, it pretty much just melts off. Heat that up a little bit and apply some solder to it. And there we go. We got a nice bead of solder on our wires as well. And then what you do, all you have to do, it's really easy. You just put the two together and push down, and the heat will transfer through the solder onto the one underneath, and it'll be connected. So just apply some heat here. You can see it connecting. Let go. Blow on it. And we're done. That's all it is to get a nice solder connection on there. Now if we take this off, we can see, ow, it's hot for one thing, but you can see that the solder has a really good connection on there, and that thing's not going to go anywhere. So what we can do now is do the negative post. Again, tape that bad boy down. Apply a little bit of flux onto our post. And actually, I think that's upside down. Yeah, I want to do it on the other side. So again, apply some flux. Heat it up. Get a nice little bead of solder on there. And all I'm using is just a 40-watt, $10 soldering iron from Home Depot, I think it was. You don't need anything fancy. A lot of people say you need some nice high heat soldering irons, all that kind of good stuff. I'm sure it helps, but I've never had a problem with a 40-watt. Let's do our pretend our wire. Apply some heat to the wire, get some solder on there. And now, see, I almost forgot to put the shrink tube on there, so good thing we stopped there and kind of thought about it for a second. Grab some shrink tube here. Put that on there. Tape is starting to come off. Tape that. And here again, all you do is you put the wire on there. It's going to get a little hot on your hand, but I mean, it's not a big deal. Push down, wait till you get a good connection. And you can see the solder melt right to the post, so I mean, you'll know when it's done. Let it cool off a little bit. There we go. That's all it takes to solder on a Dean's to the ESC. Now after a little bit, once it cools, I'll move my shrink tube over it, and then you just take a lighter and shrink the shrink tube on it. That's good to go.